Hey guys, it's Mr. Dugal, and just want to take you through the first week of Caesar's English. Thanks so much for joining. I'm going to kind of explain how this class will function and what the goal is. So each week you're going to have 5 different stems, and I'm going to highlight the stems meeting in these videos, and you guys will take those meanings and apply them um, to words that involve those stems. I'm also going to give you 5 vocabulary words for you guys to use. And then every once in a while, instead of doing lessons, we will review if you know those stems meanings from memory and if you know what the vocabulary words mean. That way I can tell if we are keeping those in our memory. So if we can recall them later on, that's the important thing. So we do have 5 stems this week, and the first stem is the stem bi, bi, which means two. You'll see that in your first lesson. Bi means two, so an example that's really easy is a bicycle. A bicycle has 2 wheels, and there are several other words. Obviously, there are dozens of words that have the stem bi in it. For this week, since it's our first stem, I gave you 3 examples of words, so you guys can kind of see what we're looking for as we go through these Caesar's English lessons. Our next stem is sub, which is under. I'm going to give you an example. So sub, which is under. In a submarine is a boat that goes under water. That will be an example. D is our next one, de. And D means down. So if you're descending a flight of stairs, for example, you're going down the stairs. And we'll actually get into the rest of that that part of the word send. We'll get into that later on. So we also have, so that's SCEND. We'll get into that stem meeting later. Pre means before. So prehistoric, for example, if something's prehistoric, they'll talk about like the dinosaur age being prehistoric. It's before history. So before history. And what that means is it's before we started our our calendars. We started our calendar system. So they can go back and backdate things using age of fossils and things like that, but it's pre our calendar. So prehistoric, it's before history would be the meaning of that word. Finally, we have super, which means over. And a good example is Superman. So Superman is a man that is obviously a superhero, so he has the powers over a normal man. So super would be over. So those are your 5 stems for this week. Like I said, we'll get into some of those words I said. We'll explain later. So there will be some combinations of where you combo a couple of stems, and you can really get the whole word's meaning just by breaking it into 2 stems. Like I said with send, we'll get that at a later date. Okay, our 5 vocabulary words. We'll do 5 vocabulary words each week. These words are common, higher level words, often seen on tests like the ACT. And these words, on your documents, I'm going to have you think about a synonym and describe how they are synonyms, how they're similar. Synonym, and we'll get into the syn, the stem syn, S-Y-N, means same. The stem nym, N-Y-M, means name. So synonym means same name. Whereas antonym, ant, A-N-T, means against. And nym is name. So it's a name against the original. So synonym is a word that means the same as the word that we have here, and an antonym is the opposite. So we're going to do 5. I'm going to have you come up with a synonym for each word, and I'm going to have you compare and contrast it. I know that sounds weird because you're thinking synonyms should be same name. How could I contrast it? So it's easy to compare a synonym, but synonyms aren't exactly the same. So I do want you to think through how are they different. And I've given you an example with our first word, countenance, on your document. You'll see there. I say a synonym to countenance is grimace. And a grimace is an example of a facial expression. Countenance means facial expression, and this is especially popular in like old English books. Countenance means just a facial expression. So an example of how grimace is similar is grimace is a type of facial expression someone gives when they're in pain. It's different because a countenance can be any type of facial expression, whereas a grimace is solely focused on what someone does when they're in pain. The other thing that you'll need to do for this document is the antonym part, which I just mentioned. So an antonym is the opposite. So can you think of a word that is the opposite of countenance? What is the opposite of giving someone a facial expression? And sometimes it's hard to think of an antonym to something like a facial expression. But an example I have for you is the word stoic. To be stoic means to display no emotion at all. So if you have a countenance, you have a facial expression. You're displaying your emotion. If you're stoic, you're displaying no emotion. So that is an antonym to countenance. So that's how that will go on your document. Again, I did give you those examples for countenance, so I'm recalling them now. I'm not going to give you the examples for the other four. I will tell you the words' meanings, but you need to come up with the synonyms and antonyms and explain why on your own. Profound, the word profound means deep. Usually this is used in regards to wisdom, but it doesn't have to be. So someone says something, someone says, man, that's profound. That means like that's deep. That has deep meaning to it. Manifest is our next word you'll see on your document. M-A-N-I-F-E-S-T. Manifest means obvious. So when something is manifested, it's obvious that that reality is true. So something becomes obvious when it's manifested. Okay? Our next word is prodigious, and prodigious just means huge. And it's a direct synonym to being ginormous, huge. And our last one is languor, which means weakness. If you have, and those are kind of direct synonyms as well. Just as prodigious is to huge, languor is to weakness. So those are your 5 words. Your goal for this week is to complete that Google Doc and come up with 3 words for each stem, and come up with a synonym and antonym for each vocabulary word. And then not only that, but commit these 5 stems and these 5 vocabulary words to memory. That will go a long way. And again, every so often I'll be checking in where we won't do any new words. We'll just be seeing if you can recall the old ones. So thanks for joining. Hopefully you guys get a lot out of this. I know Caesars English has been something that has meant a lot to my former students as a foundation for language, and has honestly even helped me as an adult to break down words with stems. So that's it. Thanks so much, and enjoy.